Canaan Valley Resort, located in wild and wonderful West Virginia. They claim there are 47 trails, 1 terrain park, and 3 lifts. When I say there were 47 trails, that's a very generous count. Pretty much every little nook and cranny got a name. They were calling for 1 to 3 inches of fresh snow. I think we ended up getting 4 inches. As far as skiing conditions, I mean, it was actual skiing on brand new powder. What I came to realize is that while this resort advertises a ton of black diamonds and steep terrain, they have significantly overgraded almost the entire mountain. My first experience with the trail over ratings was right at the very top. One of the first choices you get when you get off the Weiss quad lift and you head on the across the main front side, the Old Canaan Curve, which they rate as a double black diamond. For the life of me, I cannot understand how this could possibly be rated a double black diamond. I went top to bottom, probably turned twice, and probably more out of boredom than anything else. It's not steep, there are no moguls, there's nothing about it that makes this thing difficult. This is almost a beginner run, and actually the upper spruce run, which they have rated as blue, that runs right to the right of it, is actually steeper, and because it gets used more, it's a lot slicker. So this just blew my mind that they would rate that a double black diamond. I don't know, maybe they have like a polar bear that jumps out and attacks you, and that's what makes it hard. On the day I skied it, there's just nothing there. Now, unless you take one of the, say, the top 4 or 5 ski routes from the Weiss quad that descend off the right, and I'll kind of follow that chairlift down, unless you take one of those, you end up on what I could best describe as a prairie. It looks to be a good half mile long of just flat mountaintop. Virtually no downhill and even some uphill when you get over to Dark Side of the Moon. So, if this is frozen solid and maybe a little icier, you might be able to keep some momentum across it. But with any kind of powder like I had, or I imagine if it gets warm and that gets slushy, you're cross country skiing, and there's no way around it. Unless you want to do one of those first 4 runs, you're going to end up in this muck, and it's not fun. I mean, if you want that to be your exercise for the day and skip the gym, good for you. It was taking me anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to cross that, and just, I didn't come to the mountain to cross-country skis. I wasn't wearing cross-country skis, I was wearing downhill skis. It just did not make for a good experience, and I think that factor alone is what kind of gave me the real negative Canaan Valley hate that I have right now. So maybe hate's a little bit strong, but so we have this vast prairie, I guess kind of called the Dark Side of the Moon, or just kind of upper spruce, I don't know, whatever. Big open area, really, really flat, and not fun to get across. So some of the little routes near the top, Weiss Way was one of them, with all the brand new snow coming down, and it really was picturesque. It was very, very pretty. I was the only one there, so I was skiing on just untouched powder. So that aspect of it, highly, thumbs up, good job, way to go. This particular one is the Weiss Way In, which is a black diamond according to the rating. I have no idea why this is considered a black diamond. It's a blue at best, if you're being generous. I've seen bunny slopes that are actually, some of the green slopes that are actually steeper than this. So other than the grading aside, it was a really pretty run. You're kind of going through the trees. It wasn't super wide, which I kind of enjoyed. Kind of getting more surrounded made it a little easier to just kind of pick a line and go. On the Weiss Meadow runs, and they've been labeled Weiss Meadow 1, 2, and 3. A couple of them are black diamonds, and it looks like Weiss Meadow 3 is a blue. to me, they were all about the same steepness. There wasn't a ton of difference between them. I mean, as a positive note, they are super wide. So I could see if you're a beginner and you still need lots of real estate to kind of make those turns, and I mean, this would be a good place to go. Seriously, if I were thinking about bringing somebody who was not a real strong skier, there was a ton of real estate for them to come down. It's a little bit steep, but it's not too crazy. Lots of rooms. You're not going to run into anything. There's no obstacles. Doesn't have the chair lifts and all that kind of stuff. The day I was there, I was the only one there pretty much, so you don't have other people to worry about. So from a beginner, intermediate standpoint, maybe you can come here and have a really good time. If anything, I would think that the resort would probably be better selling it like that instead of trying to claim that they're black diamonds. Say, hey, we got really wide, easy to intermediate coverage. This is a great place to bring the family. I'm not sure why they ranked them like they did, but I mean, this particular run was a good example of that. It's a nice, wide, smooth run, and it was enjoyable. It's not a black diamond. I also learned that the moguls, while covered in snow and difficult to see, were still predominantly ice. So when I came across them, you're on this nice slow powder, then all of a sudden you're on ice, and all of a sudden I'm down on my butt. So skiing moguls with a layer of powder over top of them wasn't my best showing. So I definitely need to get better at mogul skiing. I'll blame this one on the snow and poor visibility, but really it's me. This is Dark Side of the Moon, rated a black diamond. I guess this was second to the Old Canaan Curve, which was the double black diamond. This was probably the most offensive run to me. Super wide, super shallow. I mean, there's many flat parts in here. So I mean, even if you were a brand new skier, got out of control, you're gonna just slowly come to a stop because of all the flat sections. So this is one I would totally, if I were the ski resort, if I were king for the day, I would totally grade this one as a beginner. And it takes you over to the beginner side anyhow. And then it gives people a way to, experience, if you're then that, not first time skiing, but, you've skied a few times and you're trying to step up and you want to take the main chair. This gives you a way to actually get a nice long run in on a nice wide track without having to worry about tight turns or any kind of major obstacles. So I think Dark Side of the Moon as a beginner / intermediate course would be a great grade for this, and a much better way to describe it. I mean, this is there's a lot of people that see that black diamond and they're just afraid to ski down it, and there's on this one at least, the day I was there's no reason that this wouldn't be a great place to take a strong beginner, someone who's ready to step up to that next level, and let them experience a nice long run. Gives them plenty of time to do lots of turns. Not a black diamond in any stretch of the imagination. So one of my favorite runs that I found was called the Glades, which is not to be confused with the various glade ski areas over on the right-hand side of the map. This was a blue run, kind of in the middle of the resort, and it drops you right back onto the Weiss quad chairlift. Just a fun little run. It's kind of narrow, real twisty, turny, kind of takes you in along the trees. Has a decent, it's a correctly graded, I would say, blue, and that it has enough downhill slope to kind of keep your momentum, keep your speed. It's not crazy steep, but definitely a fun little run. I really enjoyed it. I did it several times. It was just a good way to get there. It also part of the reason I did it several times is that the turnoff for it's kind of before you hit that flat prairie section. So if I got to the quad and was coming off and just really did want to cross the prairie, I would get lazy and just take a fun run down through the Glades Trail. So that turned out to be one of my favorites. Really kind of enjoyed it. So I had two primary goals for my trip to Canaan Valley. So goal number one was to ski powder. Totally successful goal. I ended up skiing on anywhere between 1 and 4 inches of powder. The morning was basically untouched. There was very few people skiing. A lot of the runs just didn't have it. I was the first person to put tracks down on them. Goal number two was skiing in the glades. Done a little bit of this in the past. Some official glades, like at Seven Springs, and then a fair number of just off-trail type stuff. I am by no means a good glade skier. I both am too brave and too cowardice. I'm brave enough to get myself into situations that are above my actual ability, and then I'm too much of a coward to actually commit and point the skis down the mountain and actually make the turn. So I end up going way too slow on way too steep of stuff and just end up fighting it the whole time. So I knew that going in. My goal here was to get a little bit more practice, a little more comfortable. When I saw how overgraded everything was, that gave me a lot of confidence. Even though this was a black diamond, which I normally would not consider skiing glades on something that steep, when in fact it was really maybe a strong green or easy blue. Okay, that was about where I wanted to be to kind of try to get better at glade skiing. So in the glade skiing, I'll say that goal was achieved in that I got to do it and I got better at it. I'm still nowhere near where I want to be with respect to being proficient at skiing through the glades, but definitely made some progress today. I was able to get some consistent back-to-back runs that made it a little easier to get those lessons beat into my thick skull. An added bonus, and not something I even considered, was the terrain park. I have never in my life skied off one of the terrain park jumps. When I got there, the fact that they had a terrain park that was not even on my radar, it wasn't something I was planning to do. When I got around to the front side, combination of I was so tired from crossing the prairie, if you will, that I got to the bottom and I'm like, I just don't want to do that again. And so as I was riding the Schloss triple lift that would take me up to the top and then back to the front side, I saw that there's just nobody on the terrain park. When I saw that it was just empty, I'm like, hey, maybe's my day. So I took it slow. Went through the first time. The jumps from the chairlift looked pretty big and pretty steep. Wasn't sure what to expect there. It's always hard judging how much speed is going to equal how much air. So I will say that as big as they looked from the chair, they looked at least twice as big from the ground as you're approaching them, and they looked like they were pointed straight up. Definitely those first couple times as I was trying to figure out the speed, I was worried of how far I was going to end up going. But first couple times, nice and easy. I kept my speed in check and just got a couple inches off the ground. Gave me a lot of confidence to do it, so I ended up doing it 4 times. First time was just barely jumping at all, just kind of seeing how much speed equaled how much lift, getting a feel for the ramps. Second time, a little bit braver. I probably got 6 inches, maybe a foot off the ramp. Third time, I was realizing that I was kind of going into it real stiff. Wasn't bending the knees, wasn't really trying to jump at all. I was just pretty much carrying my speed through the ramp and letting it result in me, getting a little bit of air. So on my third time, I started actually bending my knees and springing my jump at the trying to time my jump at the top of the ramp, and then also trying to catch myself on and cushion myself a little bit better on the fall. Felt like I was getting a lot more air. You have that distance side, but it felt like I was actually landing on the back side of the jump. So felt a lot bigger. Eventually I came around a little bit later in the day, did a fourth run. By this time I was pretty tired, very bored, and so I decided to just really go for it. First two jumps, no problem. Probably the most air I'd gotten all day. The third jump, I knew right before liftoff that it was going to be a wipeout. I had all my weight on my back left ski. I was leaning backwards. I just kind of lost my balance a little bit right before I went into the jump, and I knew that it was going to be a bad day. And so instead I pretty much hit the jump and went straight up, landed right on my hip pretty much, caught myself a little bit with my arm, and the GoPro on my head snapped off my helmet. The adhesive tape just peeled right off. One of the downsides of the terrain park is you do have that chairlift going right over top of it, so I got to hear all the ooh on the various people on the chairlift as they were watching me take my fall. But only pride was really hurt, and managed to do my terrain park for the first time.